Welcome back, Truth Seekers. This is Athanasius for the weekly Athanasius Report. Glad to be back, ladies and gentlemen. And I have to say that it's never a dull moment here in the United States now that it's election season, is it? I mean, we have a lot to get through this week. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. In the last few weeks, the media has been selling you the story that, oh, Trump is done. He's floundering. His polls are going down. He's never going to be able to catch up. And then some other events that were happening. Trump's campaign's in chaos and blah 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 blah. Well, okay, if let's just suppose for a second that the media had that right, that Trump was done the last, I don't know, 3 weeks or whatever, then this week would certainly imply that Trump is definitely alive and kicking. So, for those that have not been paying attention to what Trump has been doing this week, let's just go ahead and look at the biggest thing, and that was Trump's foreign policy speech. Last week he came out with an economic plan, and I talked about that at length in my last blog. And go check it out. Again, I provided 8 reasons for why Trump's economic plan is far better and compared that to Hillary's plan and gave 8 reasons why her plan is just inferior. Go check that blog out. You can look at it on my homepage here on YouTube. For this week, though, I'm going to look at Trump's foreign policy plan. And for this one, I pulled up the actual transcript of his speech. And the points that I make here are the points that he made in his speech. I'm not plagiarizing him. I take no credit for this. I am simply reporting in either paraphrasing or putting exactly what he said in context here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and jump into his first issue. How he did his speech was he broke it up into 2 sections. He identified 5 problems, and he gave 3 solutions to fix those problems. The first problem is that our country's resources are overextended. We have a weakened military that's spread out all over the world. We have wasteful spending, and we're not curbing it. We have a trade deficit that seems to grow larger every year. We have not been able to close borders, and so we're letting in millions upon millions of people that we don't know who they are, where they come from, where the loyalties lie, and so forth. There's a few others I'm paraphrasing here for time purposes, but that's the main gist of the first point. Second point, our allies do not pay their fair share. We have essentially become the sugar daddy to the world. We fund most of NATO. We fund a good chunk of the UN. We pay for a lot of our allies so they can go off and do whatever programs they have and not build up their military. And places like Japan and South Korea come to mind on this. Third problem, our friends are beginning to think that they can't depend on us, especially under the Obama regime. Places like Israel, Europe, Eastern Europe especially, and some Asian countries are beginning to think that we are too weak to be able to stand up and help them in their times of crisis. Fourth problem, our rivals no longer respect us. We've grown soft. Our enemies are taking advantage of our soft nature under President Obama, and they're either stealing from us, like China is doing, with their intellectual property theft, stealing copyrights and so forth, and making their own versions of the products over there without giving due compensation to the owners of the copyrights, to cyber hacks coming from Russia and other places around the world. And then they openly mock us as well. You have idiots like the Iranians who openly chant "Death to America, Death to America," and then at the same time, they shake our hands and thank us when we give them $40 million for 4 prisoners. I mean, it's just outrageous how stupid our foreign policy is and how much it encourages those that do not like our country. And then the fifth problem is that America no longer has a clear understanding of our foreign policy goals. We're supporting wars that we had no provocation to start. We are not supporting oppressed minorities in the Middle East, and yet we're supporting the Muslim majority and bringing them over here in numbers, while the Christians, the Yazidis, the Jews, other minority sects are being systematically wiped out in a genocidal attempt by the Islamists over there to cleanse the Middle East and turn it into one big Islamic caliphate. And then, of course, the biggest one, Obama won't name the enemy. And you cannot defeat the enemy unless you name him. There's an old saying by Sun Tzu in The Art of War. And I'm probably going to butcher it, so apologies ahead of time, but it goes something like this. To remain anonymous is to be undefeatable. So if your enemy cannot name you, if your enemy cannot pinpoint what exactly or who exactly you are, then there is no way that they can squash you, and there's no way that they can ultimately defeat you. So those were the 5 problems that Trump laid out. And then he went further, and people say, well, Trump didn't give any solutions. Trump, just like, okay, no, he gave 3 solutions here, okay? First solution, we have to develop a long-term plan to stop the spread of radical Islam. He's willing to identify the name of the enemy. Recognize that it's a philosophical, not just a conventional war. We need to work with countries struggling with radical Islam, places like China and Russia, who we should not be, necessarily fighting with anymore. Cold War is over, but we should be uniting against, a common enemy, that being the Muslims at this point. We need to stop importing radical Islam into our country, which is also a good idea. We shouldn't be bringing the enemy right into our doorstep, because all they're going to do is cause chaos inside. I mean, it's easier to repel an enemy from outside the gates than it is to try to deal with traitors from inside the gates. And then lastly, he's not going to announce our plans to ISIS. And this has always been, since like the beginning of the campaign, this has always been a point of contention with a lot of people. Well, how do we know you really have a plan if you don't tell us? People, I may just be biased because I'm a military veteran, but you do not announce what it is that you are going to do to defeat your enemy. Does a boxer go into the ring and say, okay, I'm going to throw a haymaker, then a left jab, then an uppercut? No. He just goes in there and beats the crap out of his opponent and tries to block his opponent's punches as much as possible as well. You don't go in to a war laying out your entire strategy. You may say that, our strategy is to win. You may say that, in the immortal words of Winston Churchill, never give in, never, 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 and victory at all cost. Then, yeah, that's good. And then you leave the strategizing to the generals behind the scenes. They come up with their own plans, execute them, and then you tell the media after the game plan has been executed, what happened, what did they do. You don't tell the enemy, you don't telegraph your moves. I was a basketball player in high school. That was one of the surefire ways to get the ball stolen, is if you telegraphed that you were going to pass the ball to somebody in the court. You had to be spontaneous. You had to be unpredictable. Otherwise, the ball was going to get stolen and the other team was going to score. It's simple as that, folks. I can't believe I have to make a sports analogy just to, talk about war plans and what have you. I mean, geez. I wish people were a little bit smarter. Anyway, so that's his first solution right there. The second solution, we need to rebuild our military and our economy. Modernize our nuclear weapons technology, which we have let go woefully unupdated. It is truly... We still use... Get this. We still use floppy disk for the Minuteman missiles. The big old doomsday things that you always see in movies like Terminator 3, and which was a good movie, by the way. Anyway, but we use floppy disk. I'm not saying that we have to hook them up to the net because I don't want them to get hacked, but good grief, people. Let's, update our stuff, for crying out loud. And I'm not even talking about the arsenal, which I don't even think I can talk about the arsenal. Anyway, also increase military spending, but then cut waste at the same time. So Trump recognizes that Obama has really taken a knife heavily to the military, and we have suffered for it. Our equipment is becoming more and more obsolete. the new equipment that is supposed to be coming out is taking either forever to come out or it's lagging in development hell. You have so many, you have issues with personnel where because of all the cuts, you now have people going out on deployments longer, going back to back deployments, people not being able to rest up. It's just causing a lot more undue stress upon our already stressed out military forces. And so Trump's thing is, we need to increase spending in key areas like updating our technology, getting better weapons, increasing personnel, increasing the number of ships, aircraft, so forth. But at the same time, also find areas of waste and cut, which is good. We need to do both. I'm not in favor of just throwing money at the problem, and I think Trump is looking at it from a business side, which is what they need to do. And this is especially true since the report came out that the Pentagon has lost something like $6.5 trillion unaccounted tax dollars since 9/11, I think it was. I mean, how do you lose that much money? There seriously needs to be an audit there. There seriously needs to be an audit there. And all that wasteful spending. Well, one of the ways that they get rid of the wasteful spending is cutting all the damn chiefs at the top. And there's too many chiefs, not enough Indians. There really is. I think they need to cut the Admiral and the General Corps and their staff by at least half. You do that, you're going to save a gazillion freaking amount of dollars. I don't even have the numbers in front of me, okay? But you're going to save a hell of a lot more than by cutting, little seaman so-and-so and private first-class rock. Then use newer technology to give us an edge. Embrace the newer technology that we have, such as one of the things they mentioned was using 3D printing. I can tell you firsthand that being on a ship when you're on deployment, it sucks having to wait for parts to come in that you if you were in port, you would have a greater chance of just walking down the pier and going to another ship and going, hey, do you have this spare part that we can borrow for the, or that we can get off of you? Yeah, sure. Or no, try that ship over there. Or you have the supply depots nearby that you can go to them. But when you're out to sea, you're SOL. I mean, it really is. You have to put in a requisition, and you have to wait, and it could take months for them to coordinate, getting the part and getting it shipped out to you, and then it's just a nightmare. And yes, I am reliving some of my nightmares from. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, I had fun with this very issue. Let's just say for about 5 months of my life, it was an absolute living hell. That's all I'm going to talk about. But let's just say use new technology like 3D printing. You put a 3D printer on a ship, suddenly ships can manufacture the parts that they need. You don't have to wait weeks, sometimes months to get the part that you need. The ship can get critical areas back up online faster, and it's going to save a hell of a lot more money because now you just have to put the supplies on the ship. You don't have to worry about coordinating logistics and getting more personnel moved, and no, none of that. So I like that idea, and that's one of the ideas that he wants to embrace by bringing in newer technology into the fleet. Great idea. Also, take care of our acting service members and the veterans. Trump has been one of the biggest advocates for reforming the VA, for making sure that our benefits are protected, and this is really one of the key things that he is he's advocating here, and I like that. But I'm talking on the military side here. What about the economy? Well, you've already heard him talk about how he's going to change our trade deals. He's going to renegotiate them to give us a better deal. Closing the borders, immigration, because what's happening is these illegal immigrants are coming in, over across the border. They're taking lower wages, lower paid jobs, which is driving down wages for the American citizen, which is a provable fact. Go look it up. And then also other economic policies like taxes, like regulations and so forth. Trump talked about that, and I mentioned that in last week's vlog or whatever. So it's a 1-2 punch, but they go hand in hand, because if the economy's not working, if the economy's not going, you're not taking in enough revenue to be able to pay for your military. So Trump is smart by putting these two together. They are symbiotic. The third solution is develop a foreign policy based on American interest. Put America first. I love it. Okay, and as an American, everybody should love it. Every American should love it. In the Middle East, defeat terrorism and promote regional stability. Be generous to only those that prove to be our friends, which is good, which means that he's going to renegotiate with some of these people that we throw money at to try to, prop them up. Like, why are we helping out Saudi Arabia? Why the hell are we helping them out when they send their damn Wahhabist imams over here to the United States to radicalize our youth and the immigrants and so forth? Screw them. But what he's talking about, we're not just going to be throwing money at people hoping to buy their respect and their love. No, they're going to have to earn it. Great. Find common ground with Russia and China. I touched on this before. Russia and China are also dealing with Muslims right now. So why not, band together to go take them out? But at the same time, he's also not going to just allow them to walk over us as well. He's going to approach these two nations from a position of strength and regain the respect lost by them. That means he's going to go to China and say, hey, I'd be willing to help you. All right? I'd be willing to, keep making these trade deals here. But first off, we are going to renegotiate, so it is a fair trade. You're going to stop your copyright infringement, and you're going to either pay back all the companies that you screwed over by stealing their products, or you're going to allow them to open up their own shops here in your country and sell directly to your people. And then update NATO's mission and structure, which he said, it's antiquated because it's based off of Cold War statutes. We're against Russia and the Soviet bloc and so forth. Well, yeah, it needs to be updated, folks. We need to realize that, the Cold War is over, and we need to focus on this century's problems, which is radical Islam. And that's what he wants to do. And then if we do go to war, we go to war for victory. We will promote peace and prosperity where we can. But if we have to go to war, there is no substitute for victory. We go there to win. And that is a great strategy. And that's something that we have not done in I don't know how many wars now. We go there, we lob a few missiles, we throw some guys on the ground, shots fired in exchange, and then we get caught in this darn thing of, rebuilding the country that we just took over. And Trump has said, I don't remember if he said in this speech, but he has said in those speeches, we're not going to be nation building anymore. No more of that. And good. We shouldn't be spending all this money trying to rebuild other nations. We should be, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm a bloodthirsty individual here, but I kind of like the Romans' idea of going into Carthage, burning it down to the ground, scattering its people to the four winds, salting the earth, and then walking away. I like that idea. Going back to Trump's position here, he said before that he likes Teddy Roosevelt's foreign policy. Speak softly, carry a big stick. And yes, we should do just that. And then we also need to reinvigorate Western values and institutions. And that is something that is sorely lacking in today's world. With this whole idea of multiculturalism and, your culture is just as valid as mine. And no, we stop that. Okay. The modern world did not get to where it is today by being multicultural, being accepting of other cultures. The Western values of personal freedom, of adherence to the Christian values, and so forth, have been the biggest boon to mankind in the entire world's history. If it wasn't for Western civilization, we would probably be an Islamic world. We would probably be a third world crap hole, because Islam is nothing if but a crappy system. By promoting Western values and institutions, we stand up for those things that made not only this country great, but made the rest of the world great once upon a time as well. Those are the 5 problems he identifies in his foreign policy plan and the 3 solutions. And that's as quick and down as dirty as I can nail it for you. And like I said, you can find the transcript of the speech where all these are listed up on his website, his campaign website, donaldjtrump.com. Go there. If you don't believe me, if you don't want to take my word for it, go there, read it yourself. Okay, like I said, I took this directly from his speech. I'm not plagiarizing. I am acknowledging that it is his speech. It is his words. I am merely translating it into something to help everybody else. Okay? So, so that was the start of Trump's good week. And it got better from there. He had a few more speeches. He had a town hall on Sean Hannity where they brought victims of Islamic terrorism on to the show there. He gave a speech in which he had said, as close as I can remember it, that he regretted some of the hurtful things. He regretted the hurtful things he said during the primaries, and he, reached out and tried to, make peace with the never Trumpers, the cruisers that were butthurt and everything like that. It's not a full-throated apology, but you know what? I honestly don't think he has anything to apologize for because it was the primaries, and as I've said numerous times in the primaries, it is very cutthroat. It is very much a blood sport. And so you have to look at it within that lens. All Trump was doing was playing the game. And for those that are still hurt by what Trump had said, refer you back to some of my previous videos to get over it. So, what were the results of all these speeches this week? Okay, and I'm not even going to get into the Hillary stuff just yet because that was also another issue, but I'm just going to focus on what Trump did. By looking at the polls, at the beginning of the week, you saw that Trump had greatly narrowed, or was starting to narrow, the lead of Hillary Clinton. Some polls had him within 5 to 7 points at the beginning of the week. Actually, a lot of them did, if I remember correctly. When he started giving these speeches, and I attribute the speeches he gave this week as the biggest factor to why the polls started changing, because those are the most visible that the average person sees from Trump. It's not so much the behind the scenes stuff, like the shakeup in his campaign, the quote unquote shakeup. I'll get to that in a second here. A lot of what drives people's opinion on Trump comes from the perception of when he speaks. When he's off the teleprompter and he's just speaking off the cuff, a lot of people say that it's just a mishmash of, weird ideas and strands of thought, and to a lot of people that annoys them. But when he's on teleprompter and he's speaking in a more presidential manner, a lot more people tend to listen, and a lot more people tend to think that, you know what, maybe I could give this guy a shot. Some may not be convinced right off the bat, understandably so. I mean, after all the shenanigans that have been going on this campaign season, it sometimes takes people a little bit of time to get over their own feelings and personal perceptions towards a candidate. Well, if this week was anything of an indication of what we could expect from a President Trump, I think a lot of people's minds have turned. You have polls showing that at the beginning of the week, Hillary was leading. Now Trump has either closed the gap to within a point or two in a lot of polls, or he's actually ahead of the polls by a couple points. There was actually one poll I had read at the beginning of the week that had taken surveys from 1,000 plus people and tried to keep the demographics almost even between Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, so about 33% for each. Of course, numbers will vary slightly depending on who they could become available, but this poll tried its best to make all the camps even. They found Trump had a 6-point lead in that poll, and I wish I saved it. I saw it at work. I thought I saved it on my phone, and then I found out that when you reset your phone, it just wipes all your history as well, which I don't know if there's a setting for that. I don't know. I just switched to a new carrier, so I'm still trying to learn all the ins and outs of their phones. But I wish I'd saved it because I would tell you which one it was. But here's another interesting thing. Actually, two interesting things. There is a app on your phone called Zip Questions and Answers. And it's a downloadable app that you pull up, and it brings up questions that you can just answer directly to your phone. You could think of it as a polling service of sorts, only it's not considered scientific, I don't know why. I guess maybe because instead of you going out to the people and controlling who you call and the demographics and so forth, you're just letting random people come in and answer the questions. And you're not taking any demographic information, which, okay, I can kind of see that, but I still think there's a science behind it because you have to, put the question out there and let people see it and get back to you on it. But anyway, that's beside the point. Well, what they found in these polls is that, or in this app, the guy that created it, he found that when you just leave it to where people come in and answer the polls, that Trump wins in almost a 2-to-1 fashion against Hillary Clinton. Now, what's interesting about this is that, like I said, a lot of people are poo-pooing this because, oh, it's not scientific. You're not gathering all the demographics to show the breakdown in ages, sex, creed, and all that. Okay, yeah, whatever. All right, but let's just be perfectly honest. The way polls have been conducted have, in their own way been biased because you can easily go and sample a lot more Democrats or Republicans than the other groups and get skew the results depending on how it is. Some polls they only ask like 400 people, and you can't really get a good sense of what the country's thinking with just 400 people. I mean, that's less than what some offices have, some state government offices have. What this app is showing is that the way that we poll in the past, where pollsters go out and they call people on landlines or cell phones and ask them and try to get them to take a survey or whatever. Well, now if you put the power back into the people's hands and let them choose what polls they want to answer that mean to them or whatever, you start seeing some interesting results. Now, does this mean that Trump is going to win in the 2-to-1 fashion? I don't know. Okay, I honestly can't tell you if Trump is going to win for certain. I say that he is, but there's still that lingering doubt in my mind that there could be enough election fraud or something terrible could happen at the last second to where Hillary could pull out a win. I can't be 100% certain that Trump is going to win this fall, but I am certain he is going to win. Anyway, taking this app's information, I think that this is going to be the future of how polls are going to be conducted because more and more people cutting landlines, going to cell phones, and more people are choosing not to answer the polling questions because they don't want to be perceived as biased if they say that, like if they say they support Trump, are they going to get called out for supporting racism or anything like that? And most people don't want to do that. But if you make it so that it's anonymous, where people can just answer the question, a lot more people are going to answer it honestly. Yes, you could get those people that try to game the system by creating multiple accounts, clicking the one that they want, and so that's another problem with it. That's probably why it's probably why it's not scientific, because you don't have a error of margin or margin of error within it. But I look at those as just small issues compared to the fact that you have like tens of thousands of people answering these polls at any given time, and you're seeing a snapshot, and I think it's a more real snapshot of what's really going on in the country. I would like to think that we are going to win in a 2-to-1 fashion. Again, as I've said before, I don't know. But if that app is any good resource, then I think that we may be pleasantly surprised come November. The second thing about these polls is that I heard this on the radio. I think it was Rush Limbaugh who was talking about this. But he was talking about there was a professor out west, someone that speaks at places like Occidental and all these other liberal bastions, whatever. Well, he studied the current campaign, the current presidential race, and everything associated with it, media coverage. And what he found is that if there's no media bias, if there's no media bias whatsoever, if it's just media reporting the facts as they are, then Trump actually would be ahead everywhere. Because of the media bias, a lot of people have more negative reactions towards Trump. Now, I don't know how he did this, and even Rush himself admitted he didn't know how he did this, and they're trying to, figure a way to get him on the show, to ask, how did you do this? Because we're really curious about this, and I, if they ever do get him on, I will, share that information with you guys. But for right now, I'm in the dark as much as you are, but I do find it fascinating that there is somebody out there that's basically confirming what we all know, that it's the media, that the media bias is shaping public opinion because they're all in the bag for Hillary Clinton, as they are, good little Buddhists. Anyway, so that's it for the polls and what I wanted to say on there. Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, Jiminy Crickets, man. How did I forget this here? Another thing about polls as well is that you're also seeing a swing in certain demographics going towards Trump. African Americans, this is interesting. At the beginning of the week, he was hovering at something like 2.5%. Like, it wasn't above 4%. Within this week, from the talk he gave in Milwaukee to the foreign security or the foreign policy speech, town hall, his numbers jumped 5 different times for African Americans to where it's now sitting, it's like between 10 and 15% right now. Same thing with Hispanics. So the things, LA Times, they do like a live feed on like Hispanic voters and show their support or whatever. Trump at the beginning of the week was down in, I think, the teens, maybe even the low 20s. By the end of this week, Hillary's dipped down something like 10, 15 points, and Trump rose to 36 points overall support from Hispanics. And why this is happening is I attribute this to the speeches he made about, the one in Milwaukee comes to mind the most, where he talked about bringing all Americans of all colors, races, creeds together to build a better America. That he is not going to stop until every child in America has an opportunity to succeed. And by tying that to Obama and Hillary Clinton and the Democrats' failed policies and how they ruined the city and Detroit, and also last week when he made the thing with the speech in Detroit, his economic speech there, and he's exposing the Democrat lies towards the African American community, and he called them out. I mean, he said specifically that the Democrats are just using you for votes. They don't care about you because they know that you're just going to vote for them. And the media, of course, went apple pie, like, he can't say that. Why not? It's the truth. I mean, what, you're going to fault the guy for speaking the truth here? Go screw yourselves. Anyway, but because he decided to, actually speak truth to power and call out the Democrat Party for the fact that they've kept African Americans trapped in welfare, they've given all the jobs away to legal immigrants, and put forward taxes and economic policies that continually hurt the African American family and the communities, we're seeing that uptick. And I think that also resonated with the Hispanics that are here legally, that came here, became citizens and so forth, because they realized that it's not us that Trump was speaking about when they said the Mexicans are coming over the border and they're taking and they're rapists and the criminals. No, he's talking about the criminals, not the good Hispanics, but those that don't obey the laws. And so I think that they're starting to see that this guy is for good values. This guy is for obeying the law, respecting lawful immigration, and making sure that people that come here legally have a chance to succeed and so forth. And then he's also making sure that our jobs don't get taken away by people who come here illegally. They shouldn't be here in the first place. And I think more and more people are going to start seeing this. So anyway, okay, so that's last on the polls. That's last on the polls I want to talk about here. And now I'm going to switch and talk about the dark side. Oh, man, it's almost like going into the Twilight Zone when I start talking about the Democrats, because I just how anybody can support these people, I have no idea. No comprendo how that works. But before I get to the Hildebeest here, let's take a few other stories here. So Biden was campaigning with Hillary last week, and he gave a speech to a crowd, of course, going over the usual Democrat talking points of how Trump is unstable and Trump can't, be trusted with the nuclear. He says Trump can't be trusted with the nuclear codes, and then in the same breath talks about how he himself, being of steady mind, who has the codes with him at all times, you could trust him with the codes. Oh my gosh, Biden, and it was. I laugh and weep at the same time. It's both funny and sad that he says that Trump can't be trusted with nuclear codes, and there he is pointing to a dude behind him that supposedly has the nuclear codes and possibly the nuclear football, and saying that, yeah, you see that guy back there? I mean, he's got the codes. All right, you just don't give those codes to anybody. You gotta make sure you can trust him with it. It's like, are you just how? What? You say that you can't trust Trump, and yet you just called out the guy that has our nuclear goals, the most secretive, probably the most secretive bit of our government. How do you not see the irony in that? Oh, gosh. And then and then while he's giving the speech, there's Hillary sitting on a stool in the back there, and it's becoming more and more apparent that there is something physically wrong with Hillary Clinton. She, at almost every one of her rallies, while she's waiting to speak and she's up on the stage with the other speaker, she has to have a stool that she either sits on or she leans on. And then there's a photo that got leaked. I don't know if it got leaked or if it was allowed to be published. I'd be surprised if it was allowed to be published. But someone got a picture of Biden holding up Hillary Clinton, who went limp in his arms. Like it wasn't like an awkward Joe Biden hug. It was like somebody trying to hold up a big toddler, like that or trying to pick up a toddler that had fallen asleep. Hillary looked like she just went limp. And then there was also the thing where Hillary introduced Biden, and she slipped getting off of the podium, and then when she came back on the podium, she slipped again. Since those events earlier this week, she's disappeared. I mean, there's a hashtag now, "Where's Hillary?" that's trending on Twitter right now, and she doesn't have any other events planned except for some fundraisers. I guess today is when she has some fundraisers going for. She says that Bill's birthday and up in Chappaqua, wherever the hell that is, where the hell is Martha's Vineyard? I don't know. I don't want to go there. I don't know if for whatever reason I ever decide to be stupid enough to run for president. If I ever get there, I sure as hell wouldn't go vacation in Martha's Vineyard. I probably would not have any fun whatsoever with all those other stuck-up types. I'm not that sort of person. Now, if I was allowed to, shoot my guns off the back porch, maybe we could talk, but that's another story. Anyway, yeah, Bill Clinton's birthday this week, and, they're up in Chappaqua, Martha's Vineyard, and she, quote-unquote, disappears, but, you don't see, but again, this isn't just, this time. This is a pattern with her, where she does one or two events during the week, and then she disappears for 3-4 days. It's almost like she's a vampire that comes out in the daylight, and it takes all her energy not to burst out in the flames, and then she has to go back into her coffin and sleep it off for 3-4 days before coming back out to suck more blood out of the stupid people of the country. But the fact that she disappeared is now becoming more noticeable in the social media circles, and even some of the media is starting to pick up on this. And where this became apparent with what happened in Louisiana. Louisiana, unfortunately, tragically, is having a bad series of flooding, similar to what happened with Katrina back in 2005. You had just some slow rolling storms that came in, and it dumped a heavy amount of rain. Some of the levees broke or failed, and the water flooded out something like over 15,000 or thousands of homes. 15,000 people about left homeless, displaced. It's so bad that some of the locals got tired of seeing the authorities not be able to get to some of these people to help them out. That they formed what was called the Cajun Navy, and so they got their own little flat boats, and they're going around giving water and food, and trying to rescue people off of rooftops and so forth. And the community is really, really suffering right now. Well, three things were apparent this week. One, Obama doesn't care about Louisiana because he's on vacation up in Martha's Vineyard as well, and he's doing the same damn thing where he's hiding like Hillary, only he's a little more visible because he's actually playing golf. Hillary literally phones in her support to the governor of Louisiana, and no joke, puts out a tweet of, "I'm remaining abreast of the situation, and if anyone needs help, please see the Red Cross for assistance." Like, well, excuse me, Miss Queen Bee. I didn't think that, you couldn't be bothered by the plebeians and their plight up there in Martha's Vineyard. You must be having such a good time that, the poor unwashed masses just don't bother. You just don't bother with them. Just let them eat cake. Both of them are upstaged by Trump. And this was the other thing that I think really helped his poll numbers, was that Trump finally had enough of what he was seeing down in Louisiana, and he decided to take action himself. He canceled a couple events and flew down to Louisiana, brought a semi-truck full of food, blankets, toys for the kids, water, some supplies, and then he and Pence were there passing out supplies to other to people in need, and to the services there. He donated money to a local church to help help the local community there. And then he went into neighborhoods that were devastated and met with the people there, and talked about them. And one inspiring story, elderly couple were sweeping out the house. Their waterlogged furniture's out on the front porch, ruined, and they don't know what to do. They don't know if they're going to rebuild or whatever. And Trump just looks the guy in the eye and says, "You're going to rebuild, and it's going to be beautiful." That's a leader. That is a leader. A leader is not necessarily someone that can fix a problem. That is nice when a leader can do that. But a leader is also someone that can inspire people, that give them hope, that say, "You know what? Yes, things suck right now. Things are terrible. Your house is flooded out, and your furniture is sitting on the front lawn waterlogged and useless. But you know what? You're gonna make it. You're gonna fix it. You're gonna see this through." And that is a awesome quality in any leader, to be able to not just take hold of the problem and do it himself or themselves. A good leader is able to inspire people to overcome their shortfalls, to overcome whatever problems that they have, and be able to put their best foot forward and succeed in the face of adversity. Trump did that this week, and that's why and this is, a lot of people are equating this to Obama's Sandy Hook moment in 2012, where the storm hit up in the Northeast, and Obama went up there, and of course he had the infamous photo of Crispy Donuts. Sorry, I was thinking Crispy Donuts there, because that's what I call them, is Crispy Donuts at home here. Anyway, Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, giving a bro hug to Obama. And that did help Obama in those last weeks before the election turn the tide against Romney and win. Unfortunately to say. Why? Because in that moment, Obama looked like a leader. He looked like someone who cared. Mitt Romney looked like a rich a-hole who didn't care, who didn't want to, go to the people. And so this, I have to agree with him somewhat, that this is like the Hurricane Sandy moment. And think that that's also going to reflect heavily in the polls. I mean, when in weeks to come. But again, this all gets back to the fact that Hillary is so entitled and so incompetent that she thinks that the presidency should just be given to her. And Trump understands that no, you have to work for it. And this is where Trump will ultimately succeed. And one of the things that Trump did this week is that he rearranged his campaign. I don't call it a shakeup. I don't call it campaign chaos. I don't call it anything else but what it was. Trump was looking at entering the next phase of his campaign, and he brought on people that knew how to take charge of such a situation and go full bore with it. Paul Manafort left. Okay, that was the other big story this week, and other people are saying, oh my gosh, Paul Manafort left. It's campaign chaos for the Trump campaign. No. You know what you need to listen to on this? Okay, listen to Herman Cain. All right, he's on at the same time as Glenn Beck, and let me tell you, I'm so glad I found a radio station in town that plays Herman Cain, because before it was just Glenn Beck that I was stuck with from 9 to 12. Actually, I stopped listening to him months ago. I just switched to just putting on music. But now that I found Herman Cain, I am so glad. And the perspective that Herman Cain gave on this, it really opened my eyes to the mindset of Trump. And Herman Cain said, look, all he's doing is acting like the CEO of his company. When your company is doing well, you keep the leadership. But when it's not doing well, you find out why it is, and if you need to change the leadership to go into a new direction, then you do so, because you have an obligation to succeed in your business. And that's what Trump did this week, is that he recognized that, okay, before you had Corey Lewandowski, he got him through the primaries. He got Trump to just be Trump and to knock the hell out of the other 16 candidates in the primaries, which is what he needed to do. Like I said, primaries are a blood sport. You have to go in there, get down in the mud, and go bare knuckle with these people in order to win. But then once he finished the primaries, then he had to turn his attention to the convention. And the convention was going to be the last gasp for all these Denver Trumpers to try to pull some sort of shenanigan to try to take the nomination away from Trump. So who did he turn to? He turned to Paul Manafort. And Paul Manafort helped Reagan back in the day secure his nomination. Then once he secured his nomination, Trump went, and then once the convention was over and Trump officially had the nomination, then he switched gears again to go into the general election mode. And for this, he tried going with Paul Manafort, and then, as you saw the last 3 weeks, he was getting killed in the polls, and people are saying, oh, it's terrible, Trump's campaign is over. Well, then Trump realized, okay, there's something not right with how this is managed. I need to go and find someone that can help me. And so he brought on Kellyanne Conway, who did pollster work for the Mitt Romney campaign back in 2012, and then Steve Bannon, who worked with Breitbart, and I keep forgetting what his role is. It's not CEO as people are reporting it. That's someone else. It is a very high position though, and now you're starting to see the winds shift because of that move, and then of course Paul Manafort leaving and so forth. Why is that? Well, because the two people he brought on are fighters, just like Trump, but more importantly, Kellyanne Conway has the inside knowledge of how campaigns work, and she especially brings the knowledge of how the Clinton machine is going to work, and the Democrats and the liberals are going to work, because she fought against them before with Mitt Romney. Steve Bannon is a fighter, and he knows how the media works. He has been a champion to calling out the liberal media bias for years, and he's been relentless in his tactics against the mainstream media. And so this move, what Trump has done, is he has brought in two well-versed geniuses into, or call them generals, if you will, okay? Brought in two well-versed generals on the two fronts of this war. That being the media and the Democrats. So I do not look at this as a shakeup. I look at this as Trump recognized where his faults were, and now he's gearing up and he's going to go full-blown war against those two machines. And it is going to be an awesome campaign from here on out. I think we're going to see a lot less gaffes from Trump. I think we're going to see a lot more of him connecting to the regular person. They're going to do a better job getting his message out. Trump's already bought, his the first ads of his campaign in the general election for a number of swing states. And the ad that he put out, it's only 30 seconds long, but it cuts right to the heart of the matter. And I attribute that to the two people he brought on, where I think the advice they're giving him is, look, yes, be yourself, but instead of going off the cuff, focus your thoughts into a script and read off the script, or stick to the script as close as possible. Don't give the media or the Democrats any fuel for the fire to be able to say, oh, he's too unpredictable and so forth. I think that's what is going on. I won't swear to it, but that's how I perceive it. Anyway, so the Trump campaign is getting back on track, and I think we're going to start seeing some good things coming here. As for the Hillary campaign, in the immortal words of Doc Brown from Back to the Future, you're going to see some serious shit. And we haven't even scratched the surface of how deep this rabbit hole goes here. Congress is looking into possible perjury charges against Hillary. Whether or not they get it before the general election, who knows? But the fact that there's now this cloud of possible criminal charges coming up against her, not just coming from the FBI, but now coming from Congress, who I don't think have to go through the Department of Justice to be able to do their own subpoenas and charges and so forth, then, just the fact that there's this cloud is going to generate a negative perception on the Hillary campaign, already more so than what it already is. Then you have this little gem coming out as well, that Hillary's FBI interview was released this week. I think it was to Congress, but it was heavily redacted. That's going to further the questions being asked by Congress, and it's also going to further the question being asked by the public. Why is this information being redacted? What are they hiding? What is going on with this? And there's a group, Judicial Watch, I think it is, has gotten a judge to finally approve to get Hillary in front of the microphone and put her on record and answer questions regarding her emails and other things as well. So hopefully they can also do that before the election. Then you had more email leaks. This time on the Emperor Palpatine himself, George Soros. And my God, what a piece of human filth he is. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know what George Soros is, all you need to know is this, okay? He's of Jewish background. During World War II, sold out his own kind to the concentration camps to save his own skin. That's about as much as you need to know that he is just pure evil incarnate. Emails hacked from his server show that he not only bought and paid for Obama and Hillary Clinton for a number of favorable policies, especially with regards to immigration, with regards to, like, for example, for Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, there was a little issue in Albania, and he wanted her to send, like, 1 or 3 people down there to go fix it, and within 3 days, that person was on a plane over to Albania. I mean, yeah, you talk about the puppet master here. I mean, he's also, big in supporting the UN and calls it his, like, what was it? The power that helps keep the immigration flow going in Europe and so forth. He's also shown to, quote unquote, contribute millions upon millions of dollars towards the Black Lives Movement, okay? Especially in areas where rioting and looting and everything happens. So, knowing that, before people have said that, all those Black Lives Matter movement people, well, they're rent-a-thugs. They're people that you buy to go. They're professional agitators, professional protesters that go out and cause havoc and so forth. Well, now we have a smoking gun to say, yeah, that's true. What we've been saying all these years is true. George Soros is the one paying them to go out and cause chaos. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse for the Hillary campaign as more and more emails come out, and there's talks about, things coming out in September and things coming out in October, and it's going to keep following her all the way up to the election. That is a lot of information this week on just the election stuff. But we are not done, ladies and gentlemen. We still have many, many more to go for. But I'm getting off the topic of election stuff now. Now I'm going to focus on some other odds and ends throughout this week. I spoke last week in my video supporting Donald Trump's policies, listing out the 8 reasons. I talked at length about regulations and how they're hurting businesses because they're costing millions upon millions and sometimes billions of dollars for these industries to try to comply. Well, here's another story to illustrate that and prove my point here. The FDA, that regulates the food stamp program, is now requiring that convenience stores, like gas station convenience stores, provide healthier selections for EBT users. Now, let's just set the stage here. Your average convenience store, gas station convenience store, has a limited amount of room. And usually they stock it up with snacks and junk food and, quick items that you can grab on the go. Sometimes you'll see occasional fruit. Like, for example, where we live, me and my wife, we are in the middle of nowhere. And so we have to drive like 20, 30 minutes into town to be able to hit a grocery store. There is a convenience store right down the street from us that does have a little produce section they get from local farmers and so forth. Well, that makes sense in that sort of situation because a lot of people, if they just need a quick item like a tomato or maybe some eggs or whatever, they can just go to the convenience store and grab or a gallon of milk. Just go to the convenience store, grab that, and not have to go back into town. That's why it's called convenience stores. I mean, duh. Anyway, but now the FDA is saying that if you accept EBT cards, which a lot of these convenience stores do, you have to provide healthier options like kale, duck, lamb, organic produce. I mean, first off, where the hell do they get off trying to dictate what a store is supposed to sell? If something is not selling, why the hell is a store going to keep stocking it up? They're just going to be wasting money at that point. And I don't know about you, but I don't know a lot of EBT people that are buying kale. I just don't. But worse than that, what these regulations are now doing, they're going to have to force the convenience stores to have to put in more equipment or more specialized shelving to be able to support these new items that probably nobody's going to buy because who the hell buys that crap in the first place? I mean, chicken I can understand, but duck? Anyway, the cost to be able to comply with that is going to either put a lot of convenience stores out of business because they won't be able to comply, or they're going to just say, okay, fine, we're no longer going to be supporting EBT cards. And then they're going to be losing out on that revenue, which is only going to hurt them. And that may, in fact, end up closing some of them as well because now they've lost a section of revenue for them. So all this is stupidity of the government trying to fight the quote-unquote obesity epidemic by getting these people to eat healthier. Here, I got a great idea for all the fat asses on the EBT cards. Put them to work. Put them outside. Have them sweat off some of that. Have them go walking, picking up garbage on the side of the road, like you do with some prisoners in some states. Have them go and take care of the parks. Go out and pick up litter in the parks, or take care of trails by digging new paths or repairing the ones that they have there. Put them to work. That's one of the things. I mean, here's a story about early American history here. John Smith, yes, of Pocahontas fame, okay? He was almost killed by his colony. Why? Well, after they landed the first year, all these rich people thought they didn't have to work. They could just go out and look for gold. And so nobody grew crops. Nobody had any food. So winter came, and it was a particularly brutal winter. A lot of people froze and died. And the next year, John Smith comes around and says, all right, No more. You don't work, you don't eat. And everybody was pissed off with that and like, how could you tell us that or whatever? And he stuck to it. And you know what? If it wasn't for him, the colony, the British colony in Virginia would have failed. Pure and simple. By forcing people to work, by telling them that they had to work to be able to earn their daily bread, he saved that colony. And that's exactly what we need to do now. We need to stop telling these people that they can just get a free ride using your taxpayer dollars to fund their eating habits. I am so sick of that. I am not an ungenerous person. But Christ said, the poor you will always have. Well, rather than just keep them perpetually poor, I do want to try to help them, give them a hand, give them a hand up, not a hand out. And you're never going to do this by forcing people to just, you're not going to do this by having people eat healthy using the EBT cards. Put them to work. Let them sweat some of that off. Okay. Moving over to the military now. The biggest news on that is that the only female Marine officer that was going through the infantry class dropped out. Big surprise. I could have told you that from the beginning. And this is nothing against women, okay? I've served with women in the military, but I'm just going to state a simple fact here, and that God did not design women for hand-to-hand combat. He did not design women to carry 100-pound packs and go running for miles on end. He did not design women to be able to go into the trenches for days and weeks on end and put up with all the physical stresses and not have something break. This is a physical, biological fact. Women are great in a number of things. Okay? My wife is great at multitasking. Not trying to be stereotypical here, but she can talk and work on the computer and so forth. I oftentimes get in trouble because I'm reading a news article and I'm focusing on the news article and she starts talking to me and I don't realize she's talking to me until she's finished, and then I look at her like a deer in the headlights like, I'm sorry, did you say something, honey? And then she gets mad at me like, why weren't you listening? I've been talking for 10 minutes. Like, I'm sorry. Guys are focused. We're mission-based. You give us a mission, we go out, we kill the enemy, we come back. That's how we're wired. And this is becoming more and more scientifically proven too. Women are homesteaders. They're able to take care of the home. They're able to take care of the kids and wash and do all these things at once. Guys, you give us a mission. Go kill that deer. Bring home dinner. Got it. Kill the deer. Bring home dinner. We're good. And then our government trying to force, open up all the military to be able to, let anybody and everybody serve in these areas. It's not going to work. I shudder to think what's going to happen to the first females that somehow get put into the SEALs program. They will not make buds. I can guarantee you they will not make buds. I've served with people that dropped out of the buds programs, and they're great guys, and they're in excellent physical shape. But, a very small percentage of dudes even get through the buds program. There's no way that a female is going to get through the buds program. Not ever. The other thing in the military, and I meant to get to this story weeks ago, and I had it up on my computer. I saved it. It was in my browser. I meant to talk about it. I kept forgetting to talk about it, so I'm finally going to talk about it. The Navy named a ship after Harvey Milk, who was in the Navy once upon a time. Who is Harvey Milk? Harvey Milk, the left will tell you, is a celebrated figure, the first openly gay politician in San Francisco back in, was the 60s or 70s? I don't remember. And he was assassinated by being gay. So he's a gay martyr for the left cause. Here's the real story about Harvey Milk. The guy was a sexual predator. He took advantage of a number of underage boys, particularly runaways, would give them drugs, and would rape them, essentially. I'm not going to go into the stories here. You can go up and do your own research. It's too graphic and too disgusting for me to sit and try to talk to you on this. I don't give a rat's ass that this guy was in the Navy at one time. As far as I'm concerned, he should not have anything named after him. We put away Jerry Sandusky of Penn State for taking advantage of college-aged men. And what he did was wrong. I am not going to defend the son of a bitch. But the left wants us to praise Harvey Milk, who was a pederast, who took advantage, drugged, and raped runaway teens. No. It is a sad, sad state of our military now that we would name a ship after such a man. John Paul Jones is rolling in his grave right now. Oh, what else we got here? Oh, Social Security turned 81 this past week. And it probably won't get to 100. I'm just going to say that. If anybody's relying on Social Security, don't. I strongly recommend get your own plans. If your company does not have a pension plan, I would go to them and try to convince them to go with a mixed 401k type of plan, something where it's not solely reliant upon you to contribute. Like, for example, I work for the state government. We have this plan where I contribute a certain percentage of my paycheck, and then the state government matches and I think adds like another percent to what I put in there. So both sides contribute, and it's put into a 401k style thing. So it will grow based on the markets, and it's not solely reliant on a pension. It's whatever money I put in there, and plus their money, and then interest and so forth over time, in what I get after however many years of service. So that I think is going to be the way of the future when it comes to retirement plans, because the pension plan is just getting too expensive. Companies cannot afford it. And you look at what's happening with the auto industry and just how much they are paying out of pensions every year just to support the darn union contracts that they have. And even the military is going to this style now, because before it was all pension based. You get 20 years and you get paid the rest of your life. And now the military is going to start going to that method in 2019. And honestly, I think that's the way it needs to go. And I think that's how Social Security should go. I think that what needs to happen with Social Security is that they need to reform it so that you contribute a little bit into your own personal account. It doesn't go to this general fund that supposedly you'll get back, which never happens, but it goes into your own account. The government contributes or matches whatever you put in, and then after 65 or what, everybody's living longer, so I guess set the retirement age to like 67 or something like that. Then after that, you can start collecting it if you want, and go from there. That's how I envision the future of Social Security happening if we ever get around to reforming it. I hope that's happened, because the way the Ponzi scheme that it is now, it is going to come crashing down hard, and a lot of people are going to get hurt from it. And I don't want to see that happen. Oh, then we turn to Black Lives Matters. Well, not necessarily the group itself, but this does involve a black person. There was a Walmart employee down in St. Cloud, Florida, that refused service to a cop because she's black. He literally was in line. He was at the register, and when he went to go, when it came time for him to scan his items, the chick looked at him and pointed to her skin and refused to scan him. And then there was another black employee that was laughing about that whole thing. And as far as I know, Walmart still has not apologized to this man. They gave out some statement that, that the person is not working in that area. No indication whether they were fired or not. They should have been fired. But, and then also, we do support our police. And so, okay, if you support police, then fire that person. That sort of behavior does not belong in the workplace whatsoever. If you work at an establishment, you serve regardless of who it is that comes through that door. If they're being belligerent and so forth, okay, yeah, kick them out. But if they're, good customers, you take care of them. And by not firing this person, or not, having her publicly apologize, or at least something other than the typical BS of, oh, we handled the situation internally. Okay, what does that mean? Did you just transfer to another department? Is she at another store? What? But the bigger point is that, especially for the black community here, you do realize that the cops are the only people that are essentially keeping you guys safe. That if it wasn't for them, you'd be overrun by gangs by now. Oh, then we turn our attention to the Olympics. And I am not going to talk about Ryan Lochte and the stupidity of the 4 swimmers in the gas station down there. That story's been beaten to death. I am not going to talk about that further. Instead, I'm going to highlight another story that is not really making the news rounds here. That being Kim Rhodes, who is the first woman, I think the first person ever in Olympics history to medal in 6 consecutive Summer Olympics. Why is this not a major story? Why are we not celebrating this person? 2 reasons. The medals were for skeet shooting, and God forbid we should support somebody that is a strong Second Amendment supporter, as she is. 2, she's openly for Trump. So, of course, you can't have someone with such an accomplishment get any notoriety because you cannot support Trump. Anyway, I helped make Kim Rhodes' name more viral or more well-known because that is an awesome accomplishment to be able to medal in 6 consecutive Olympics. Summer Olympics. That is bravo. Bravo, my dear. If you're listening to this, let me just be the first to say on behalf of the red-blooded gun-toting Americans, you are a legend, and you deserve more recognition than what you're getting. Then we turn our attention to... I can't believe this is a thing. Oh my gosh. How? How is this... This exists. This exists, ladies and gentlemen. School systems are rolling out what's called a gender unicorn to teach boys and girls that the terms boys and girls are not to be used anymore. They're made up terms. They're all in the boys and girls' minds. Actually, you can't call them boys and girls. They're all in the kids' minds. Gender is not a physical thing. It's a state of mind. It's what you choose to be. And so this gender unicorn is to help explain to the kiddies about gender and how it can be fluid, how you can choose to be a boy one minute and maybe a girl the next minute. Maybe you have no gender. You're just androgynous. And oh God, I need a drink after this. How far we have fallen as a country to allow this type of teaching of our kids. Just no. No. There are physical differences between boys and girls. Okay? I don't even need to go into the penis and vagina thing here. Okay, but there are physical differences. There are mental differences. There are psychological, physiological. There are men and women are 2 different, distinct beings. And for them to try to dupe kids into this is going to cause more long-term harm than whatever good the left thinks that it's going to bring out. And we need to fight this at every step of the way. We really do. And if you still have kids in the public school system, pull them out. Homeschool. Don't do public schools anymore. It is a cesspool of stupidity. It is there to dumb down your kids so they are nothing more but welfare rats voting Democrat. And then one more thing, and I can't take credit for this. This was someone on the radio I heard that called into one of the shows talking about this. But it makes an excellent point. Okay, if gender is a state of mind, Why then are we getting so excited about potentially voting for the first female president? Exactly, ladies and gentlemen. Liberal think. Actually, that's an oxymoron. All right, so let's wrap this up with two other really stupid stories as well. There's an Italian bishop trying to file a lawsuit against the Pokemon Go parent company. It's not Nintendo, it's Niantic, I think it is. And they are trying to sue to stop Pokemon Go. This Catholic bishop, is trying to sue to stop Pokemon Go because the negative effect it is having on the people of Italy and how it's turning them into social zombies. To the Italian bishop over there, I understand your concerns about how people are shutting off the rest of the world and not engaging the rest of the world and just going into this alternate reality of Pokemon Go. However, instead of addressing the symptom, which is, people going into the altered reality, let's address the cause. The cause is Italy sucks right now. Why does Italy suck? Well, you've allowed a number of evils to creep into your country, from abortion, homosexual marriage, to allowing Muslim hordes to just come across the Mediterranean into your country. Address those issues first, and maybe people won't find their lives suck so much to have to disappear into the Pokemon Go app. Think, people. That's why God gave you a brain. And then I'm going to end on Pope Francis here, possibly recognizing Chinese state-sponsored bishops. For those that don't understand what's going on in China right now, China is still a communist state. Yes, they've opened. It's like a hybrid of like communist and capitalism. The communist part does not like any of the outside religions, like Christianity, and they are persecuting the Christians terribly there, because Christians won't get in line, like announced the two-child policy and other communist dictates as well. So there is a lot of oppression going on the Christian, especially the Catholic Church. In some places, it's almost virtually underground. Well, the communists came up with this great idea that, why don't we just appoint our own bishops that we can control that will preach the communist message to the people, and therefore we could control the Christians and Catholics that are in this country. One, they are not true bishops. They are puppets of the communist government. They are not ordained in the Catholic Church. They are not. They have not been sponsored by the church, and they do not preach the true message of the church and Christianity. They preach this modified pro-communist government speech, and Pope Francis is thinking about legitimizing them. It saddens me to no end as a Catholic to hear this, because how this Pope could stoop to side with the murdering thugs of the communist regime over the people. If we had Pope Francis when we still had the Cold War on instead of John Paul II, I guarantee you that Russia would not have fallen. That communism would not have fallen the way that it did. Pope Francis probably would have legitimized the Iron Curtain, the Soviet bloc, and we probably would have seen the Cold War continue on into this century. It is also very telling to see that Pope Francis is not adhering to the true doctrines of the church, and instead putting his own leftist feelings and prerogatives ahead. This is something that you have to keep in mind about leftists, ladies and gentlemen. To them, their own left ideology is their God. And I will not go so far as to say that Pope Francis is a anti-pope or is antichrist or anything like that. I do pray for him. I pray that whatever ideas that he has that are antithetical to what the church has been for millennia since its inception, I pray that he overcomes them and it returns to the true faith. I truly do. But I have to take a line from a number of saints that say that, I mean, people say you should never speak out against the Pope because he is Christ's representative here on earth. But he is still human, ladies and gentlemen. And humans are capable of not following Christ, even the Pope. And we've had a number of bad popes in the past that made terrible personal decisions, had families outside of the church, orgies and other terrible things within the walls of the Vatican. It's sad to say, it's not a reflection on the church and its teachings. It's a reflection upon the people that are inside the church and who gets up into power. And unfortunately, we now have, in the case of Pope Francis, somebody that is more willing to side with thugs and murderers because they're of a leftist mindset than he is to side with the people of the country who are suffering under these thugs and murderers. Continue to pray for the Pope and the Church that the errors that they are spreading through this leftist philosophy and ideology may be averted, and those souls that are being led down the road of perdition because of them and because of their actions and deeds and words, that those souls may be put back onto the narrow path towards heaven. It's a sad state, folks, and I hate talking about it only because it's sad to have to admit that the one figure that you would think would be above all of this, that would be above reproach, would be the Pope. And yet, here he is. I'm reading this article from the Remnant that he may be siding with the Chinese government in validating these bishops. I'm kind of running out of time here, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up. We are less than 80 days from the election, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot of work ahead of us. The first thing that we need to do always is pray. I keep harping on this to people, but prayer is the best weapon that we have against the forces of darkness here in our country. Pray for God's mercy upon this country, that he does not decide to condemn us for the sake of the 10 or so good people that are still left in this country. And pray that Hillary Clinton does not get elected into the White House. Also pray that the Republicans can maintain a majority in the House and Senate come this November, so that we can start getting changes, positive changes to this country made sooner rather than later. Because if the Democrats get in, they're going to do nothing but fight Donald Trump at every step of the way in the House and in the Senate. So we have to keep the House and Senate to be able to get good judges up in the courts, to pass necessary reforms to the government. There's so much that we have to pray for. There really is. But take it one day at a time and pray. That's the first thing. Second thing is, get out there and inspire people. Inspire people to vote for Trump. Inspire them to hear his message, to tune out all the media bias, all of the stupid comments that Trump has said in the past, and just focus on the issues. Focus on Trump's economic plan, Trump's foreign policy plan, Trump's plan for veterans. These are all winning things. When people actually hear what Trump is about, not what the media portrays him, not him going off the cuff, but what he is deep down, a lot more people are going to see that he is for America and he is for us. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for listening this week. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Please like my Facebook, and also find me on Twitter at Athanasius Rep. I am now seriously looking into putting into a website. I'm hoping to get that up in the next couple weeks, and when I do, I will make an announcement, and I will be able to start posting my videos and some of my other short blogs and thoughts of the day up on there. So in the meantime, though, please spread this message around. Remember, folks, there is always hope. There is always hope for a better future. No matter what happens, no matter how deep down you can get down the rock bottom, and I have been there. You can hit rock bottom, and somebody can throw you a shovel and tell you to keep digging. Don't forget, there is always a little glimmer of hope that never goes out. And as long as we continue to strive towards that glimmer of hope, we will never be truly lost. We will never truly know defeat. Keep the hope up, folks. We have less than 80 days. We will win this election. This is Athanasius signing off. Christ's peace upon you all.